everyone. I'm Céline Evans.
And I'm Chris Evans.
And welcome to Georgia Living Podcast.
Woo!
We're on episode 21. It's a lot.
If our podcast were in years, it could finally have a cocktail.
You're so bad at dad jokes.
Hey, the only difference between a bad joke and a dad joke is one letter.
Mm-hmm. So this time we are recording late in the afternoon, as you can tell from my makeup.
A day late.
An
afternoon later.
We have had a lot of things to do, and it is such a beautiful day outside today that I really didn't want to even come in.
No, so we gotta get this episode done in one take, so we can get outside and enjoy some fresh air.
Yeah. So we have been doing a lot around the house. I've been oil painting. I made a portrait of you.
Oh yeah, the portrait is almost done. You've been painting, and I don't know how you find this free time.
It's usually right after dinner time, between dinner and kids going to bed, right?
Yeah, or after the kids go to bed.
It's my me time.
Nope, everybody needs it.
Yeah, do something different, right? Get a break.
We also got a chance to take our kids, and they participated in their very first conference ever.
Oh my gosh, that was the cutest thing, don't you think?
Yep, so that was over the weekend. Our kids are part of the Children of the American Revolution Society, and as part of members of their group, they were voted or nominated to be delegates at the state convention, and that just so happened to be right down the street in Roswell this year. So we spent the morning in business meetings where our kids took part in parliamentary procedure, putting Robert's rules into practice. They had speaking parts as part of the ceremony. They voted as delegates for the next board. Then we got to do a service project around lunchtime. Why don't you talk about that?
Fun. So I'm so proud of them because they were able to go in front of people and without fear speak. And although that seems like a very basic thing, it's a learned thing, isn't it? You've got to practice it. So now they're 6 years old, 7 years old, practicing speaking. So great opportunities there at Chattahoochee. So I was born and raised here in Georgia, and Chattahoochee is just part of everyday life for us. So I've never cleaned up the Chattahoochee shores. Did you know that, Chris?
I did not know that.
Not once.
Neither had I, though, I guess.
So our service project was actually Save Our Shores, but you and I know that we are nowhere near the shore, like Brunswick.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Well, I mean, Georgia has such a small coastline.
Yeah, it really is the southeast, so we're far away. We can't really do that. So the closest thing to that is going to be our river, which is the Chattahoochee. No, we did not go in it because also, if you have lived here for a very long time, you understand that a lot of sewage gets spilled into
You don't want to be in the hooch south of the dam.
No, there's a reason you don't see people swimming in it. But we found some really cool things. A bicycle. Yeah,
there was a bicycle that had a bunch of rusted components. It was kind of thrown off of a trail.
A grill.
An old charcoal grill, yep. There were several long pieces of metal, like an old street sign, like a stop sign, but just like the post without the sign.
Yep, someone must have taken the sign.
Yeah, and then we got maybe, 10, 15 bags of trash. It was a lot. We did this all in only about an hour.
Well, because there's so many of us that we all just kind of went out like an Easter egg hunt for trash.
Oh yeah. We found, dog bags hanging off of branches and
so many tennis balls everywhere.
Lots of plastic cups and wrappers.
Those lazy dogs not getting their balls.
I know. Pick it up, Fido.
I know. What you doing? You gotta go catch it.
Hey, go get that ball, Bruce.
They left it for us.
Yeah. It was a really good time. We got a chance. We just stopped, grabbed lunch on the way. We all kind of picnicked by the river. If you haven't checked out the Chattahoochee Recreation Area in Roswell, I would highly encourage it. There's lots of parking. There's playgrounds, plenty of paths, walkways. It's like a whole green space that goes along the Chattahoochee River. And the Chattahoochee River Conservancy is down there as well.
We've actually sold some real estate around there. There's Riverwalk that's really close by, really nice townhomes that are in the currently almost 900s, I think.
When we sold it, I want to say it was in the high sixes. I don't know where they are now.
Oh, okay.
But then we also have a listing right now in Martin's Landing over at 293 Quail Run. And this is a great little condo. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, about 900 square foot for $225. This one needs a little bit of work. Needs just a facelift, so needs new flooring, fresh coat of paint, and some countertops, and a little refresh on the bathrooms. But the after repair value is around $250 right now. So there's equity play that can go with it, and
really
that's
close to where we cleaned up.
Yeah. So Riverside kind of turns off, and then Martin's Landing has an entrance right there, and that's a very popular neighborhood. Martin's Landing, they have a lot of small communities. They have their own individual HOAs inside of the larger master. It's a master plan community, so it's like subdivisions within a subdivision. So if you love HOAs, it's great because you'll get 2 of them. Great for property values. They keep things going, but it can be a lot.
So going back to the river cleanup, we partnered with Rivers Alive, which is a agency that apparently cannot pay volunteers, so they do rely on people's goodwill to go out there and collect this for them, because many hands make light work. And so we only did that for maybe a little less than an hour. Kids got really tired of it really quickly. My favorite find was actually a fishing bell. I didn't know this existed. Did you?
So no, I didn't. It was a little bell, which has a clip on it, right?
Yeah.
And what's it do? How is it a fishing bell?
It's just like a bobber. So bobbers, you can see when it's bobbing up and down when there's something attached. This just doesn't make noise. Well, this one, it's like a little alligator clip-on bell, so that you can, I guess,
take a little nap
or something, and
under the shade.
Yeah, and then
hear a little chime.
Ringing. So it's just another marker indicator. Yeah. But someone left it, and I think that we cleaned it up and used it as the bell for parliamentary procedures.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Well, after the volunteer time, we got a chance to get everybody home, cleaned up, put into some nicer dresses and a suit, and then we went back for their awards banquet, and followed by a dance party afterwards. So the kids were having like the time of their life. They had this whole ice cream social bar, so I'm pretty sure our kids went up multiple times.
I don't know how these kids put away so much food. I could only eat maybe 3/4 of my plate and then a quarter of the ice cream.
And I think
they're like bottomless pits.
I don't know if it's just me, but I think that in parenting, the amount that the kids eat is a direct inverse ratio to the amount of effort that the parents put into the food. If you put in a lot of effort into making a great meal, they're not going to eat any of it. If you don't pay it attention, they're going to beg for more. It's just weird. It feels like that since I've been cooking for like the past few months now.
That's true.
It is very much an inverse relationship. We put no effort into this whole event, and they couldn't get enough. I don't know. It's weird. But that wasn't the only thing that we did this weekend.
No. So we just went and I guess I want to talk about this one next, what we did today. The finance ministry?
Yeah, so that was fantastic. We've been putting this together at church. It's something that one of my colleagues on our pastoral council was starting. And we've had a few meetings. Today was the first one. Céline, you got to sit through and listen to what everybody said and a lot of the questions that were asked. What was your opinion of it? Because you're outside.
Well, first of all, kudos to you because you were expecting 7 people.
Yeah, we were. We had 7 RSVPs.
You had no seats left.
It was a packed house.
Incredible turnout today. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Really interactive, and people were asking questions left and right.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people were older because they are, taking time out in the middle of their day, and a lot of people work. Not to say that younger people are not interested. It's just that they've got a lot going on. So they come out, and you talked about a variety of things. You started off with what exactly happens when a loved one passes.
Mm-hmm.
And you started off with the basics, like getting the death certificate, where to get the death certificate. You know, the things that you need to even get started on any of it. And closing out, I guess, their life file, if you want to call it something.
Yeah, so we wanted to start broad, because it's a very first meeting. We didn't know who was going to be there, so we wanted to talk about something that's going to impact everybody, and that is, so the topic was the financial aspects of losing a loved one. Doesn't have to be a spouse, could be a parent.
Yeah.
You know, so we talked about the immediate effects, right? What happens right after? How many copies of your death certificate do you need? Who do you reach out to? At what point do you reach out? If a credit card company calls collecting bills, what are you going to pay it, or are you going to direct it to the estate? Mm-hmm. Who's liable in which cases?
Right.
We talked about beneficiaries on non-qualified accounts and insurance policies. We talked about keeping safe records of your passwords, financial accounts, knowing where your insurance stuff is. Because guess what? People die.
Have life insurance, by the way.
Yeah, we have plenty.
Yes, but really, I mean, if you're younger and
get it while it's
children,
cheap.
Get it. Just get it. Don't wait.
I got it in my 20s, and I'm thanking God that I did, because, one of our policies, there was a lapse due to a change in checking account for us. So we actually lost a policy that we got in our 20s, and it was 3 times as much to get that same policy back in my 30s as it was to get it at 26. And that was just a long-term disability. Being self-employed, you have to have disability insurance. Make sure you do, because if you stop working, all the income goes away. It's funny how that works.
We don't sell insurance.
No.
This is basic stuff that really you should be thinking about. I know it's daunting, but
this is part of my background. Before real estate, I was a financial advisor. I had my licenses to trade anything on Wall Street. I had my Series 7 and 66. And then I also had insurance licenses. I could do medical insurance, so health, life, accident, and then variable product. I could do, annuities and VULs and ULs. So pretty much every product under the sun except a commodity. So I wasn't trading cows. When it comes to what we're doing here in this ministry, it's just to provide outreach, to create a safe space where people can go and ask questions, and to make sure that they're staying up to date with how do you protect yourself against fraud? How do you, what do you do when you need to buy a house or sell a house? Are those, will make you an instant offer on your home? Is that worth it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the actual value of the house and how they're calculating it. So there were a lot of questions that came up afterwards. We had several people that were talking to us for upwards of almost an hour after the event ended.
Incredible. Like, people would not get out of that room.
No.
Because they had so many questions, and there's so much to do when you actually have the passing of a loved one.
Yeah, and one of the things that I got to talk about with somebody was educating them on how the homestead exemption works, because there are exemptions for you as a homeowner in Cobb County, and most counties have some sort of exemption. The homestead exemption is statewide. So if you live in your primary residence, you should have a homestead exemption filed. If you don't, do it and contact your tax office, because they may be able to kind of retroactively predate it. The homestead exemption says to the county, I live in this house. This is my primary residence. I am not investing in this. So you get a break in your property taxes. Your taxes become less than, mine on an investment property where I'm not living in it. Well, there are other exemptions as well. So the homestead exemption, everybody who owns a home and lives in it can have. There is a senior exemption, and in Cobb County, the senior exemption
You're checking?
I'm checking the age.
So we had a debate whether it's 62 or 65, and sometimes...
It is 65.
65.
For the property tax. So 65, when you hit 65 in Cobb County, you no longer pay into the school district. So basically, your property taxes are dramatically reduced, and you're paying into essentially emergency services and a small fraction into the general fund. To give you kind of a little scope or scale as to how reduced it is, when we bought our house in 2017, the owner had the senior exemption. Her property tax bill was $606. When we lost that exemption the following year, because I'm not 65, our property tax bill went up to about $3,500.
Yet.
Oh, I got a ways.
I know. I'm saying yet.
Yeah,
You're
no,
not 65
not
yet.
for long yet. So, the savings is dramatic. In Cobb County, we have three kind of buckets that your property taxes go into. You have the general fund. That's what pays the salary of your county commissioners, all the employees, your clerks, that stuff. It also covers police in Cobb. And then you have your school fund. This is for all the new, pretty much your school board, your teachers, all the things that go to every child in the Cobb County school system. And then the third is emergency services. And in Cobb, that is fire and EMS. So when you get your homestead exemption, your general fund gets locked at that price point. Your school board and your emergency, that varies. So your purchase price is always what you're taxed at for the general fund, essentially. And that helps offset your property tax value. Now, 30 years from now, when when I hit the senior exemption, I will go and file that exemption, and I will stop paying into the school board, and my tax rate will go even lower. Now, there's other exemptions out there as well that are worth looking into for some people. And some of these exemptions include disability. Let me see if I have them all here. This is just homestead. The different types, where'd they go? So there's the basic homestead exemption, which is a $10,000 exemption in the county general and school general tax categories. You have to, this is what you apply and prove your Georgia residency. There is the Cobb County school tax. That is age 62. This is exemption in the school general and school bond tax categories. It is 62 or over. The Cobb County $22,000 disability exemption. This is a $22,000 exemption in all tax categories except the state. In order to qualify, you must be disabled on or before January 1st, and your annual net income cannot exceed $12,000 for the immediate preceding year. So last year, you couldn't have made more than $12,000. And that's a disability exemption. You have the state senior age exemption, which is $4,000 or a $10,000 income limit. So this is a $4,000 exemption in the state, county bond, and fire district tax categories. In order to qualify, you must be 65 years of age on or before January 1st. Your annual net income cannot exceed $10,000 for the immediately preceding tax year. There's a state veterans disability. So in all tax categories, if you have a 100% service-connected disability, you are compensated. You must have a 100% service-connected disability. You must be compensated at 100% due to unemployment or be a disabled veteran as defined by Georgia law. When applying, you must provide a letter from the VA administration indicating the effective date of the veteran's 100% service-connected disability. There's that exemption. There's the state surviving spouse exemption. This is an exemption in all tax categories. In order to qualify, you must be the unremarried surviving spouse or minor child or children of a member of the U.S. Armed Forces killed in any war or conflict or died as a result of service-connected injury or illness and are receiving spousal benefits from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. When applying, you must provide a letter from the Secretary of Defense evidencing the unremarried surviving spouse or minor children is receiving spousal benefits as a result of death of their spouse. So there's a lot here.
Yeah.
There's also one for peace officer or fighter killed in the line of duty, but those are it.
Well, so for all the people who've fallen asleep, wake up.
Woo! Welcome back.
That's a mouthful right there. And all this is to say that if you live in Cobb County or even the surrounding counties, there are a lot of tax breaks and tools that you can use, especially when you become a senior.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of those tools you can use in real estate like we do. So we had a lot of questions around that.
We did. And we had to send a few people into the right direction. All of this is available at cobbtax.org, by the way, cobbtax.org.
Now, the county tax commissioner is off of Whitlock Ave. But there is one in East Cobb as well, off of Lower Johnson Ferry?
Lower Roswell is a satellite
office. There's no Lower Johnson Ferry. Yeah. What am I saying?
Lower Roswell. It's over by the government offices, by the post office.
It truly is the afternoon, isn't it?
It is. Coffee is long gone.
It's gone.
Worn off.
But yeah, Lower Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little office there. It's a satellite office, so they don't have everything that they do at the main office.
Yes.
But it's still very convenient.
The good thing is that once you file a homestead exemption, it's automatically renewing. So you don't have to file it every year. You just file it once after you purchase the property by the end of March in the year after you purchase it. So if you bought anything last year, you still got a few weeks left. Get your homestead exemption applications submitted so that when this year's tax bill comes out, you're not overpaying.
Yeah, so let's talk about some community stuff that's coming up.
Yeah.
The Shamrock Shuffle that's coming up.
So registration is long closed for this, but this Saturday, it's going to start and end in Marietta Square. This is going to be a lot of fun. Go on out, support the runners, grab something to eat on the square.
It's a shuffle. Do you think they're going to shuffle?
Yeah, it's the Shamrock
They're not going to run,
Shuffle.
They're going to shuffle down.
It's a 5K run and walk event. And so this is my favorite time of year. I don't know about you, but everything is green. My house is decorated in shamrocks. The Irish music is playing.
But the pear trees are blooming right now, honey.
It's not my favorite. That's not my favorite thing. But I do like a good Guinness, and you know
the pollen starts.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome to Georgia.
Yay.
If you're new to here.
Oh, it's third spring, by the way. Today.
Third spring.
Third spring. We're on 3.
In third spring, the pollen's starting. And if you don't know, we have yellow pollen, other than the invisible kind that we can't see. It covers everything. If you have a black car and you park it outside, get a washing membership or something for your car. You're going to need it.
Yeah.
You'll see what I'm talking about in a few weeks.
White and gold colored cars show the least pollen.
Yeah.
Gold definitely shows the least.
And you know what shows the very least? Our yellow house.
Yeah, our house is actually completely yellow.
Yes.
All of the hardy plank siding. It's the yellow house.
Defense.
So a lot of the events that are happening this month in the county that we're aware of, this is a lot of them have already happened. So we've got St. Patty's Day this weekend. For those of you uninitiated, it is Paddy, not Patty. If you're abbreviating it, it's not Patty. That would be a girl's name, Patricia. Patty, Paddy. If you're talking about St. Patty's Day.
I didn't know you were so prickly about that.
Well, there's a long-standing thing, and you know there's people that argue this annually. I'm not one of them, but just a PSA while we're at it.
What about corned beef?
It's not supposedly Irish, but I still like it. So yeah, that was like a New York, Massachusetts thing. And guess where I'm from? Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Sorry. Been here long enough. I root for the home team, okay? I'm a Braves and Georgia dog through and through. It's just I love a good corned beef. So what else do we got going on, honey?
We have some... Oh my gosh. We need to talk about... So the tariffs hit. right?
Well, the stock market is going crazy.
I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to lead into this. So, we don't talk about politics here because we really don't care to.
But we do talk about money.
We do, because real estate is one of the biggest assets that you own. Mm-hmm. So you have to be well-versed in financial literacy. And so tariffs hit, and they are not specific tariffs. They're general tariffs that is just broad categories that are coming in. There are some exemptions and some time limits that we're not going to get into that.
No.
But they did come into effect, and it's kind of become a tit for tat situation. And so how does that affect housing, right? Well, there's a lot of uncertainty that has come into the market, and Chris and I have been watching. We always watch Bloomberg in the morning with the kids.
And the afternoon and the evening.
It's pretty much on all the time, other than my Japanese TV shows. And that's whenever you're in the shower. We've watched the S&P just kind of slide and make this huge correction. We call it a correction, but you might not. So, Chris, how does this change things? What's going to happen with tariffs? And because we have stick-built homes here, they're not concrete. Yeah. Where do you think the lumber comes from?
Well,
Canada.
The tariffs that everybody's discussing right now, or that basically Trump is discussing with other countries, is throwing an unknown variable into the mix. With unknown creates anxiety. It's the same thing in a real estate transaction, right? If you're in a contract, where are your pain points going to be? They're going to be in the unknown. And right now, Wall Street is seeing the unknown. They're having pain points. The S&P has taken about a 4% correction over the last few weeks. It went from about 6,200, 6,300 to now we're 5,600. 5,600 hovering right now. That's a big adjustment. I think we're down about 10% from where when Trump took office.
I read something about 15 trillion being wiped out.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I mean, the NASDAQ had like a 4% correction day. And what we're up against is just the unknown. There's a lot of volatility that's going to happen. And when we don't have a definite idea of where we're going, this gets priced into the market as risk. Basically, we add on an increased premium, and we use that increased premium as a hedge against any market forces moving against us. We saw this in 2022 when interest rates started going crazy against inflation. Our mortgages historically have had between 150 to 200 basis points over the 10-year Treasury.
What does that mean?
That means that if the 10-year Treasury bill is hovering around 4%, the mortgage rate should be between 1.5 to 2 percentage points higher. So at 4%, we should see rates 5.5 to 6. And when everything was going crazy, that margin, because of the risk, was increased to about 3 full percentage points, or 300 basis points. So at a 4% federal funds rate, we were seeing 7% interest rates. We're seeing that happen right now, where there's more movement from stocks into bonds, because bonds are contract-based, so they're more of a sure thing. And our 10-year Treasury bill pricing is up it's down 0.3%, so 30 basis points. That means it cost you 30 basis points more to buy today than it did 2 days ago. We've seen over the last few weeks the 10-year Treasury bills moving to a lower rate. So mortgage rates have come down. They're hovering in the low 6s right now. And like when we had Rob on a few weeks ago, he mentioned that you could do a 2-1 buy down where you have a 4.25 or 5.25 in year 2, and then it goes up to a 6.25 in year 3. So those are back, and they're a little bit more appealing now because we've kind of held the high rates for a while, and we are seeing some signs of rates compressing down to a lower rate. I don't think we're ever going to see a 0% rate again. I don't think anybody in our lifetime is going to get a 2 or 3% mortgage unless you've got a lot of leverage over the bank. We're not going to see that again. We may settle in the low 5s when this is all over, maybe the high 4s, but I don't think we're going to get anything better than that. So as the risk continues to be unknown, it's just going to get priced in. So the rate's a little bit, I would expect tomorrow it's going to be a little bit less advantageous on pricing. But once all of these trade wars and things kind of settle down, the agreements happen or don't happen, I think that these tariffs are mostly used as like a political strong arm right now. He's using them to get what the cabinet is looking for their administration to make their moves. And then if they can get that, I don't think the tariffs will really take root.
Well, we've talked about seniors, right?
Yeah. And
how we had the finance ministry today. We also met with one of our really good friends who is expecting another child.
Mm-hmm.
And they are thinking about growing because their family is growing.
Yeah.
And so, do we keep that house that had a low interest rate, which a lot of you are in because a lot of people moved around that time, or do we sell it and move to a different one, or do we rent it out, or what are all the options? What was it that you told them?
Well, I didn't tell them what would make sense. Well, what we did is we sat down and...
What would make sense?
No, because... Look, everybody has a different mission in life. And, if they're fortunate because they bought pre-COVID.
And we're not going to give specifics out at all.
No, God, no. And, they had a near 3% mortgage. And when I look at the numbers, the property will cash flow a lot of money.
If it's rented.
Their payment and what it'll rent for. There's a big difference between those two. So what we did is we put all the numbers on the spreadsheet and we looked at it and we said, okay, you can get similar returns here, right? You can sell the house, you can take the proceeds, you can put it into the market. You've got to get an 8% return every single year if you want to have the asset be about the same amount in 25 years at retirement. So they would have to take all the proceeds, put it in, and then in 25 years, that'll be worth, maybe a little over $2 million. The other option is we sell it now, we take the proceeds, we put it into the next primary residence. And then we're looking at that monthly mortgage payment is going to be a lot lower because it's less debt.
And when you're married, your capital gains, because a lot of you will be in this position where if you do sell and you move out of that low percentage rate into a new home, you probably did have some appreciation, equity.
Especially if you bought before 2020.
Exactly. So that equity is going to be taxed. And so we do have an exemption depending on whether you're single or you're married. And right now it's $250,000 if you're single, $500,000 if you're married. And according to some CPAs that we asked today, what if one of your partners dies? Apparently there's a time limit to where you can qualify as married versus single.
There's a window where you can take advantage of the exclusion.
That was really cool to find out.
So, yeah. So what we did is just make the calculations. And then I answered a lot of questions, right? We talked about, what's it look like to be a landlord? What kind of expenses are we dealing with? What happens if we get a poor tenant and they stop paying? We covered all of the different scenarios and just left it with them. And so they've got to figure out what works for them. But in both scenarios, they could either keep the property and that property will work for them, or they can sell the property and they can either apply the proceeds to their next purchase, or they could sell the property and take the money tax-free and just put it in their retirement. So they've got a few different options that they can work with. What really set this property out as being a unique opportunity is that the mortgage payment and the cash flow was so low, and the rent has increased so much around that area that the rent was almost double the mortgage payment. And it's rare that you have that opportunity where if you're investing in real estate, it is so hard to go out and buy a property while taking on debt, like a mortgage to buy it, where you can stick a tenant in that house and it satisfies the terms of that, like you're going to make everything back.
Which is exactly what we did in our book, and you can read about what we...
Bam!
Every step of the way that we had in doing this.
From the ground up. So we played hermit crab for the first few properties, where we bought a house, we lived in it was our primary residence, we did our homestead exemption, and then when we got ready to buy the next one, instead of selling it, we rented it, and then we came out of pocket and put our down payment down for the next property, and we did that several times. Then the market did the work for us.
Yep. So they're at that position to where rent is double, and then they have their mortgage. Do they want to get rid of it or not? Now that's up to you. There are pros and cons on both sides.
Yep. So there was a lot that we got to talk about. Not only that, I mean, that's not all that's happening in real estate. We've got new listings that have come to the market. We've got one listing in Holly Farm coming up. We have
Eagle Watch.
We have a new listing in Eagle Watch. We have a new listing coming up it's not Bethlehem. It is Bethlehem, isn't it?
Yes, Bethlehem.
We have a listing coming up in Bethlehem, Georgia. We have another listing that'll be coming up towards the end of this month in Canton, Georgia. That's a John Whelan townhome.
So this one in Bethlehem is really cool because it has a second kitchen and kind of an apartment at the bottom.
Yeah.
And those sell like hotcakes. Oh my gosh, because the rates are higher. Everyone's cash strapped right now, and it's difficult to buy a home. So what people are doing to offset that mortgage payment is having a home where there's like a mini apartment downstairs with its own entrance, its kitchen, its bedroom, and bathroom, and renting it out. Of course, you have to make sure that it's a compliant neighborhood. But if it is and you're allowed to, then yeah, supplement your income, and do your homework and who you let live there. But it's a really good way and a common way now that I'm hearing about people alleviating that payment.
Oh, yeah. Either having an apartment that's rentable in your basement or just to have that for in-laws, multi-generational living.
Yes.
Those are in such high demand right now because as real estate has become more costly across the board, one of the ways that you can save is to combine households. So we're kind of going back to older styles of living, which basically for the last 80 years, the idea that everybody goes off and has their own house is relatively new in America. This isn't how things were always done. There was the family house, the family homestead, and we're seeing a lot more multi-generational living coming back to that just as a consolidation of resources. Ends up being quite a lot. Well, yesterday I got a chance to get out of the office a little bit. And that's why we're recording on a Wednesday and not a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so I was brought up to LJ to tour some land, and that was awesome.
That's always the fun stuff. Now, you can't give it away because you do want to buy it.
Well, we're going to be putting, I hope,
Not
we're
us.
going to be putting in an offer for the buyer.
Yes.
But, just one of the best things about my job is the rare opportunity where I just get to go out and play in the woods for a random day. I gotta say, I probably spent just 2 hours of that time up there just mostly around the river. There's a creek running through the property. There's a stocked trout pond. There's no home on the property. There's an old home site, and we have the infrastructure for the home, so there's power there. It's leveled. But it'll require some work, and it was just great to get out, see a client, be out in nature on a gorgeous day. Absolutely gorgeous. Was driving with the windows down all yesterday, and will be probably today as well when we get out of the office later.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have for today. So subscribe, like us, It's in a button somewhere, right?
Yeah, and we'll actually drop the link and everything in the show notes. If you haven't already, check out, we've got statistics up for February on selectrealty.com and simplylistatlanta.com. Don't forget, if you're looking to sell your house and you want to kind of get a lay of the land, reach out. We're happy to look at the numbers, give you our opinion on what the home is worth. If you're going the Simply List route, there's no fees to sell up front. You can do it by yourself or with some support. Or if you're looking,
simplylistatlanta.com.
Yep, simplylistatlanta.com. Or if you're looking for some additional hand-holding or buyer representation, you can go to selectrealty.com. That's our full service side. If you'd like to work with Céline or myself directly, just shoot us a message. You can go, let's go broker at selectrealty.com, BROKER at select with 2 L's, SELLECT, realty.com. We know we can't spell, but we can sell.
That's my mother's pun from
I know
20 years ago. And
2007 when we created the company.
Yeah.
So. Oh no. Lost the camera. Anyway, that's it for today. Celine's frozen. Check her out on YouTube. Oh, there you're back. Oh, we're glitching out big time here right now.
Computer's telling us to get off.
Like, subscribe, share, and check us out next week. We'll be back here. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.